very much. Great to be here, and thanks everyone for your time in listening to the presentation. So I'm here to talk about Getech, and as usual, we will have a disclaimer. But we are a fast-evolving and forward-looking company, and we are working to accelerate the energy transition. And the way we're doing that is we locate energy and minerals that are essential to delivering the energy transition. And in doing that, we generate revenue. We're also exploring a number of business opportunities to extend shareholder value into some asset participation as well. But we do all of this from a really defendable position, which is a vast data set. So we've spent about 30 years building up a really complete data set in terms of the properties of the Earth and the processes which shape the Earth. And this is geology information, this is geochemistry, it's geophysics. It's also a lot of environmental data as well. And we've synthesized that into a model. And that model of the Earth looks at how the Earth has evolved over about the last 400 million years. And that information is super valuable. It's super valuable to our traditional customers who were in petroleum, and we built these things for the petroleum industry. And we count many of the world's super majors as our customers. But we're finding new markets for these things as well. And that is super exciting for us and our shareholders. And I mentioned that we're interested in trying to find low-cost ways to participate in assets. And we have our first two green energy assets in the portfolio. But it's important to stress there's one thing we do, which is locating minerals and energy. And in doing that, we're working in a number of markets. And our traditional market is transitional petroleum. But we're now building a really interesting position in the critical minerals market, in the hydrogen market, and also in geothermal. And in all these areas, we're defining solutions that help people locate these valuable assets. But we can wrap those solutions together and also deliver integrated decarbonisation plans for companies as well. And I'll come back to that point. I pressed them. Oh, there you are. So what about our business model? Well, our business model kind of has two prongs. And the first prong is about near-term value creation. And this is about supplying these solutions to customers, and that generates revenue. And our solution-based business is a cash-generative business that we've been investing in. And we deploy those solutions into the sectors that I mentioned on the previous slide. There's also this longer-term part of the value equation. And that's where we can gain stakes in the assets that we locate. We can bring in financial partners and technical partners alongside us. And then we have a whole load of options to crystallize value from there. And that creates the opportunity to build value, realize value, and then either redeploy the capital into the business or potentially return it to shareholders. Now, in terms of our investment case, we believe we've got a simple investment case. So we are very well positioned in markets that are rapidly growing, and they're recession-proof as well. There are trillions of dollars of investment needed to solve these massive global challenges of energy security, the cost of energy, and the kind of, these problems of, decarbonisation and the sustainability of the energy that we need. We have a head start, and that's about the data that we've built over all of these years. Our data offering is unique, and we deploy it through software that we ourselves have built. We've also got like a hedge in our business as well, which is that we're diversified. We supply this data across a number of different markets, and we're also diversified in the sense that we're generating revenue out of those solutions, but we're also trying to build these asset positions as well, and that gives us a lot of optionality on how we can crystallize value. And we're an experienced team. I can still see it. We're an experienced team. We have a long track record in project execution, and we built that knowledge in companies like Exxon and Shell and Deutsche Bank and places like that. We're also a company that is growing. And we put a business update out a week or two ago. And in that, we showed that revenue year on year last year grew 16%. If I look over the last 2 years, we've grown revenue by more like 40%. I think it will come back. And this revenue is growing because we have very high client retention rates. We're expanding into new markets like critical minerals, and we're upselling to existing clients. We might sell to a petroleum company, but they have renewable investments as well, so we can find new markets and existing customers. And we finished last year as well with a record order book. So our order book grew 39% year on year, but again, if I look across the last 2 years, that order book growth is more like 70% over that period. And this, of course, underpins forward revenue as this order book, this is contractually secured order book as it unwinds into revenue. Not only are we growing, but we're also diversifying as well. So I've talked about these new sectors, but are we really generating profit from them? Yes, we are. So if you look at the last 2020, 2021, 90 to 95% of the revenue we generated was from the petroleum industry. In 2022, it was about 2/3 of what we generated. 23% was generated in the critical minerals market, and the other 11% was coming from geothermal and our work in hydrogen as well. We also have a very solid financial foundation for future growth. So I talked about the order book, but in that order book, a significant portion of that revenue is annually recurring. So it's something we can have kind of confidence and visibility in. And we finished 2022 with £4.3 million of cash. And so this is a really solid foundation for us to execute our strategy. So how are we executing that strategy and what are we doing? So we, as a company, remain focused on locating minerals and energy. And there are lots of sectors that we're finding that we can deploy our expertise into. But what we do is we pick the sectors where we think there's the greatest growth potential in those markets. So we tailor our solutions to those most attractive markets. And here I just run through some of the drivers. You know, transitional petroleum. Oil and gas is going to remain a key part of the energy transition. It's a huge part of the primary energy that the world uses, and it will do for some time. But it's forecast that a 60% expansion is needed in investment in those sources of energy on current levels. We've heard some really interesting information about copper, and one of the things we're helping people do is find new sources of copper. Why start with copper? Well, we heard it, in great detail in terms of it's absolutely essential to the energy transition. And it's forecast by 2030 there's going to be a 7.8 million tonne deficit in copper. And existing copper mines are operating under extreme ESG stress. There's a problem to solve there. We're also seeing more broadly in critical minerals, 500% demand increase for critical minerals by 2050. And the point here is it's not just about the volume of these critical minerals we need, it's the diversity. The energy transition demands a much greater diversity of metals, and we can help people find them. In hydrogen, there are clear targets from government, 10 gigawatts by 2030 in the UK. Half of that is coming from green hydrogen. In geothermal, people are forecasting double-digit annual growth by 2030. Strong growth in that thing. And as I said at the start, we can wrap up these individual market solutions and deliver integrated decarbonisation solutions. And I'll come back to this in a minute. But 93% of the companies which currently have net zero targets are forecast to miss them. Because as they're turning their commitments into actions, it's a really hard thing for these companies to decarbonise. And we can help these sort of companies with integrated solutions, and we're starting to win that kind of work. So let me just quickly give you a run-through of what we're doing in these different sectors. So first of all, transitional petroleum, the traditional source of our revenue. So our customers in the transitional petroleum market tend to be oil and gas companies or governments. And we work with these companies to locate oil and gas that has the lowest carbon footprint possible, and to find those reserves in the most cost-effective way. And part of making those volumes more sustainable is about carbon storage, and we can use exactly the same information technologies that we use to find oil and gas to also locate carbon storage sites. And these customers are also very much motivated to advance the energy transition. So there's an upselling opportunity here, with people we know to sell into the other bits of their business where they're investing in lower carbon pathways. We have great loyalty in these markets. Our average engagement with these customers is 5+ years, and our longest engagement is 17 years. So we are a trusted technology partner with these customers. And as I said, they're motivated to advance the energy transition. And a good example of that is the North Sea Transition Authority, who used Getech's software and expertise in the UK's first carbon storage license round, which was started last year. Critical minerals. So the first critical minerals product we built was for copper. We look for a different sort of copper. We don't look for porphyry copper. We're focused on sediment-hosted copper. Sediment-hosted copper is 20% of the world's copper production at the moment, but we know that it's pretty geographically distributed as well. We have a solution that helps people find those new reserves of sediment-hosted copper, and those reserves are more concentrated, which means that they need less processing, which means they have a lower ESG footprint. And some of the biggest sediment-hosted copper deposits in the world are in Germany and Poland. So they're not in China or somewhere where there's geopolitical concerns. And 80% of the world's cobalt, a key battery metal, is found with sediment-hosted copper deposits. So if you find copper, we find cobalt. So we can start really unlocking these groupings of really essential metals, and there's other things we can work in gold, and we're launching a lithium product this year. The customers are metals and mining companies, and they also consider Getech as a partner, and there's a potential here where we could use our technologies to try and build some low-cost carried interests or net smelter royalties. And are we making progress here? Absolutely. We have 3 companies using our Copus solution at the moment, one in Australia, one in North America, one in Canada. And last year we closed our largest critical minerals sale ever, which was a $900,000 data and software deal with a multi-mineral global mining company. I talked about hydrogen. Now, in hydrogen, we're using our technologies to locate the best sites for green hydrogen hubs. And we have 2 projects there now. One is in the Port of Shoreham, where we have exclusive development rights over the port. We have a phase 1 design capacity of 2.5 tons. And the customer for that hydrogen would be vehicles and forklift trucks on the port. But the value we bring is identifying that location as an early mover for hydrogen adoption, and we can secure commercial exclusivity on those sites before we bring in financing partners and then start opening up the optionality to unlock the value. We have another project in Inverness. This is about delivering a world-class regional green hydrogen network across the Scottish Highlands. This is another super exciting project that's targeting trains and buses and heavy goods vehicles. In geothermal, we're locating sites that are highly prospective for geothermal energy. And at the same time, these geothermal wells sometimes bring lithium to the surface. So we have a tool that helps you find lithium and a tool that helps you find geothermal. Bring them together, you can create a large amount of value, either for subscribers of those technologies or maybe for us as an equity participant. And we announced last month a partnership with a company called Ever, and this is to jointly locate and appraise a portfolio of geothermal assets in Latin America. And this is a great example of the kind of well-capitalized business partner we're bringing into these projects. Ever just raised $1 billion to develop geothermal projects. We're on a tipping point of geothermal really taking off as a source of baseload power for the world. And this deal with Ever, this is the first time they've done one of these collaborations with a subsurface expert like ourselves. And then I mentioned, we can bring all these solutions together. So we can, leverage this footprint across these different sectors. And what we can do is we can bring to companies an integrated decarbonisation plan. So we can look at their assets and we can say, well, where are your factories? Where are your transportation hubs? And we can say, how do they sit next to existing renewable infrastructure? Where might you optimally position geothermal or hydrogen or even things like wind and solar and things? And we can deliver an integrated decarbonisation plan. And this is just repackaging what we do for other people into a sort of integrated product. And we won last year an integrated decarbonisation project for a fast-moving consumer goods company. And we are reviewing their global portfolio of assets, and we're advising them how you can reduce the carbon footprint of your transportation, of your manufacturing and things. And again, it's just going back to these same things. Where's a sensible place to locate geothermal? Where are sensible places to locate other sorts of energy assets that could be complementary for your business and help you deliver your net zero targets? Oh, I pressed the button. So, just to sort of wrap things up, we're a business that has a strong outlook. We've started 2023 with a strong balance sheet. We have sales pipeline growth, and we also have, good customer and partner momentum as an organisation. We've said that we have no current plans in terms of raising capital from shareholders. We do have a valuable asset. We own our own office in Leeds called Kitson House, and that is under offer at the moment. So that, if we successfully complete that sale, that would bring fresh, additional capital into the business. But that would only just allow us to build faster as an organisation. But when I step back from all of this, I think, the point here is that if you look at what the world needs, the forecasts are that $1 trillion a year of extra investment is needed in energy. And this $1 trillion is spread between clean energy and hydrocarbons. And the reason why that $1 trillion investment is so urgently needed is because it helps these challenges of energy affordability and security. And that's exactly what we do. We help people find the energy and mineral assets that will deliver that energy transition in a sustainable and secure way. And so as an organisation, we believe we've got the right business plan for this moment. We believe that we are really well positioned for high growth markets, and those markets are recession proof. They're addressing the underlying problems of the world that are causing the cost of living crisis and all those other things. We're part of the solution to that. So we believe it's a really exciting time for us as an organisation. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Excellent, thank you very much. So have we got any questions in the room? One here and the gentleman just over there as well.
Okay. Can you tell me what's your capitalisation? What staff do you have? And do companies beat a path to your door, or do you pitch for business?
So answer them in reverse order. We've got a unique offering. I was with a customer recently, and you always want to believe that what you do is essential and unique, right? And the reality is that often you're just trying to be a bit better than other people. But we are bringing technologies into these spaces that people haven't been able to utilise before. So we're taking stuff which is very, it's often quite, it's very well road tested in petroleum, but has never been really used in mining, has never really been used in geothermal. So there's a real excitement inside the organisation and with the customers about the delivery of these things. So I think the answer is that when we go to a customer, they're excited to talk to us. So that's great. There's a lot of legwork on our side to get out there and talk about it, but that's the thing. As a business, we have about 70 people, and most of those people are kind of technical experts. They're geoscientists or geospatial specialists or economists. And we are very respected for the rigor with what we do things and the quality of what we produce. So I'm really proud of our people and our staff as well. We have a market capitalisation of about £11 million, so we're a relatively small business. But in proportion to the scale of the opportunity that is out there, we've delivered these 2 years of double-digit growth. We're forecast by Cenkos to be on that continued double-digit growth path. And so, I'm sure all CEOs say this, but, we feel like we are not just an inexpensive company, but a kind of, mispriced company, given the opportunities in these markets that we're in. But I'm sure you hear that quite often.
Okay, so the number of possible hydrogen projects in the UK and geothermal ones So how many are really identified, and what's the time scale to actually realise them, like actually producing hydrogen and getting energy from geothermal?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things about, they're kind of different, right? They're different sorts of things. So, you know, for geothermal, you need the right underground conditions, but you need the above ground customer markets to use the heat or the electricity. And so our products look at both. They say, is there the right commercial environment? Is there the right geological environment? Where do they come together? Now, that commercial above ground analysis is exactly what we use as well in hydrogen to work out where the early adopters are going to be of hydrogen. So there's similar sort of, you know, and you know, both of them provide local solutions to companies that have local sort of challenges. So, you know, we don't have any shortage of opportunities to deploy these things. It all comes down to your exact question, which is how quickly do the markets evolve? So what we're trying to do is locate the early movers. So the Port of Shore, Marine Inverness, we believe there's an urgent need for hydrogen in those places. That's why we're there. That's why we're building a commercially defensible position around those projects. A project like Shore and Marine Inverness, you know, can be in revenue by 2025. That kind of. Geothermal projects are potentially a bit longer. There's a bit more drilling, but they're certainly, you know, within a kind of, you know, it's not that much more to get those things to cash flow. What's super exciting is what happens if you put the two together. Because if you took some, you know, for hydrogen, it's not a capital cost activity, it's an OPEX activity. 80% of the cost of hydrogen is electricity that you use to break water into oxygen and hydrogen. And the cheapest electricity in places in the UK is, for instance, the curtailed wind in Scotland. So Scotland's a great place to do hydrogen. But it's variable. Geothermal is a 24/7 baseload source of power, right? And it's low cost to operate. So if you could plug geothermal into hydrogen, that's pretty interesting, right? We have a technology to help you identify the early adopters of hydrogen. We have a technology to help you identify the best places and the best locations for geothermal. And, you know, I think it's these crossover points which become so interesting and where you can create so much value. So for us, it's how we integrate all of this is where the big step changes are going to come, I think.
And what's the sort of number of geothermal sites in the UK, is it?
Well, at the moment, there are a few sort of, you know, interesting early mover projects. So there's like the Eden project in Cornwall. Next door to that, you've got Cornish Lithium, who's trying to take, you know, lithium out of these brines. And there are various sort of smaller projects which are trying to take heat out of mine waters or things like that. So geothermal is very much in its starting, you know, it's really just starting to sort of take off. Scotland's a really interesting place because there's a lot of hot rocks underneath Scotland because of its geological history. And so, you know, again, I'm looking at this picture of Iceland, right? And no one needs Getech to tell them that it's hot in Iceland. It's obviously hot in Iceland. But where in Scotland should those wells be drilled? But, you know, the point is there's the potential for hundreds of these sites solving local problems. And it's this repeatability and scalability that is so exciting about the energy transition as well.
Excellent. Any more questions in the room? In which case I'll just jump in with a couple. So one was, you mentioned kind of how many people you currently employ. I wonder how much of a challenge is it to retain staff? And, you know, I know that in the sector wide, you know, that can be an issue. So I just wondered what your experience of that is.
The key thing for retaining staff is to offer them really exciting work that progresses their careers. And so, you know, we have good staff retention. But I think what's exciting is that, you know, we're finding new disciplines that we need. So we're bringing sort of people in as well. And I love, I'm a geoscientist by discipline and training. And, you know, we all have a great passion for the earth, right? And to be able to then translate that into all these new sectors is very satisfying for people. So the more business we win with the more interesting customers, the more I'll keep excellent staff and the more I'll get out of those staff. So we don't have a staff retention, you know, challenge. I just want to keep them excited.
Excellent. Great. Okay. If there's no more questions, that was very good. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thanks very much.